to the Fit Dads podcast. I'm Brad Thompson. I'm joined as always by Ryan Dutton, and today we're joined by the amazing James Biggin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you. I'm going to go on record by saying, no offence to any of his other guests, but James smells incredible. It's probably the best smelling guest we've had on so far.
I need to know you cologne, mate. It's doing bits.
It's gonna have to remain a deep dark secret then.
That's it.
I'm gonna have to retain it as my my little USP.
DM James if you want to know.
And he's got his notebook. Not many guests bring a notebook, which I love.
Branded, of course.
Oh yes,
of course.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Brandon, talk to us about your relationship with Brandon, James. I hear you're quite involved in it.
Yeah, so our business is branded merchandise, and it's the family business. My dad set it up back in 1980. I remember as a kid going along to the office on a Saturday morning when he was trying to keep on top and catch up with the work, and I used to go around the showroom that they had there, which had literally thousands of things on display that people could go and visit. It's not really a done thing these days. People deal remotely and everything's email and phone, so you don't need a showroom. But back then it was all that I remember, really. It was that magic of going along and something my dad had set up. And yeah, I then took the business over just before the recession started, full ownership by 2012, and then yeah, the rest is history. Really changed it completely around and made some massive differences to the business. So yeah.
Wow. Sounds like an amazing apprenticeship that you had from
yeah, it was good. He I don't think he was quite the same driver that I am in terms of pushing to try and just be the best we can be. I think he was very much comfortable in that lifestyle-y type business with his business partner. They worked really hard, but they had it as a different model to the way I did it. I've changed it almost so that we've got better ratios of salespeople to what he had. But yeah, I mean, he built up something really good. He saw a market that was being developed in the UK, probably came over from the States a little bit more, where you'd get people promoting their businesses with merchandise. And I think he saw the Sheffield angle, so Sheffield products, so a lot of steel, a lot of pewter, that type of thing. So it was a lot of gifting of that sort, and then quickly realised that products were probably going to be sourced from outside of Sheffield to build a business. So they expanded and kind of everything developed from there, really, that they would get a lot of outsourced products, and ultimately it comes from China, I suppose, down the line.
Everything's from China.
So yeah, it was seeing that was going to be the future of the growth of the business, was going to be just non-Sheffield things, unfortunately, or fortunately, because the business had to grow.
Incredible.
Talk to us about your training then. We had a little chat before the podcast and you were telling us about CrossFit and you do a lot of running as well. Is CrossFit a new thing to you? Is it something you've tried more recently?
Yeah, it's definitely more recent. So I think I do want to complement my running. So when I've been sort of thinking about having a chat with you about this, I've probably done everything that I could have done since I was as a kid. Very lucky to have had the sport within my school when I was growing up, and my parents then topped that up with several other things that they enabled me to do, which was fantastic. So I'd always find that I've done so many sports, and then they gradually, I suppose, peter out, either change of lifestyle, relationships, marriage, kids, things just start to change a little bit, and running's the one thing that I've probably kept up or enhanced and done a lot more of, because it's just so flexible. It's free, really, and so. But I also want to stay strong, and I need to kind of keep up that strength training as I'm getting older, becoming an older man, but I still want to hit PBs. So CrossFit was just something that I'd seen around. I've kind of know a few people that do it, and I wanted to just have a little go, see if I could do the techniques, but also try and challenge myself. And it was interesting because I know it's not run specific, some of the exercises and some of those workouts, but also I've got to be around people as well, and running's such a lonely sport sometimes, unless you're out in the trails, or you're doing track nights, or you're taking the dog out on a run with the wife. And so it's nice to have people, and it's nice to be around, people that are exercising and doing the same workouts as you in the community. And actually, Pete Watkins was the one that said that I clearly have a balance where I've got that thing on a Wednesday morning that I know I'm going to be going to that's a bit more community. So I'm really enjoying it. I only go once a week.
Okay. How long's that been going on?
Year and a half.
Brilliant.
Yeah, going to do a couple of little competitions. Only very low key, so massively scaled. Just because I can't pick up the techniques going once a week, but I can give it a damn good go.
I think exercise in general, like you mentioned, is very insular and isolated at points, isn't it? You do it by yourself, and you do it for your own benefit because you want to be healthier and fitter, and it's quite a selfish thing at times, isn't it?
I've written down selfish. I've absolutely written down selfish, because it is.
Unfortunately, it's like we just have to get into this mindset of like, if I don't do it and I don't make myself do it, no one else is going to make me do it. And running's like that, lifting weights, bodybuilding's like that. I've been in a lot more into that style of training. Powerlifting can be like that. But I've always felt like CrossFit was much more of a community drive. And I think once people get into that community, they stay for that, don't they? They get into it for like the training and want to be fit, but once you get into the community, it's like, oh, this is cool. I want to be around the people. I like seeing them lift PBs and do cool things. That inspires me, and it's this real nice circle that happens within CrossFit and other sports. You get like community runs, but you can't. Every time you go out running, you can't do it with someone else. You have to accept that, because you'd probably never run, would you?
No.
People's schedules never match up, so you've got to be quite flexible. But CrossFit, it's like same time, same day, every week, and you can go and give it full send, basically.
Yeah, I think there's a really nice atmosphere at Kelham as well. So CrossFit Kelham's got, just you're going along and you're seeing people that there's no chest beating, there's no egos whatsoever. So you're going along and understanding of everyone's like drive to do the workout well, but everyone waits until the last person finishes. There's no last finisher really. And I think there is a little bit of the same with our little running club that we've developed, where we've got that on a Monday afternoon, and everyone gets together and there is nobody that's getting left behind. So actually we are managing to try and achieve that with running as well, but with the Sheffield Business Runners. So that's quite good.
Difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I was into golf for a while, and even in golf you have different handicaps. So you can play with someone who's off scratch and someone who's over 20. And based on the systems they use, you can actually have quite a competitive game. You give people certain shots, things like that. So you can actually play someone who's a lot better than you, whereas in running, you can't really do that. Like, you have to slow your pace down to the person who's your kind of weakest runner. The group's only as good as the weakest runner if you want to stay together, right?
Yeah. Well, I've just found a lot of people have said over the times, well, I can't run with you. I just can't run with you. What would be the point? And it's quite gutting that, because I want people to want to. And I want to enjoy being around people when I do it. So I've got no issues if people want to say, look, can we do a group, but can we do whatever pace? So, but yeah,
people assume as well. They'll see like your best runs, and they're like, oh, he runs like that every time he goes out. And you don't I went for a run with a lad the other week, and we basically said it's got to be conversational pace, which for us turned out to about 5:20 per kilometre, and it just meant that we could have a nice chat, catch up, and not have the pressure of being like, right, we're going to outdo each other here. I've also had runs with people where you can tell straight away they're wanting to test you a little bit, and you're like, right, you mean business now.
Just nudging ahead.
Yeah, that's it. He wants to say a couple of paces ahead. He wants to be the one that's being caught up. But I love the community aspect of everything exercise, and it's becoming more accessible to people now, isn't it? I think running is having a little bit of a spike. We've done even podcasts around running, and the running revival, we called it that episode, didn't we?
Yeah, I don't know, you can see it a lot. I feel like the instant buzz that you get from completing a run, hitting a PB. I mean, if Strava were like Instagram, that'd be amazing, because you get more kudos rather than just the regular 4 people.
Yeah.
But
people don't comment shit on Strava.
No, they don't.
No one's saying, "Fucking hell, mate, what happened there? Took your face up, pal. That was right."
But I mean, Sam Newton probably gave us the glowing recommendation for yourself, James, where he said that you won park run. And it instantly spiked my interest. Like, how does that work?
No, I've won 2 now, I think. And so I did the most recent one that I remember was the Rother Valley one. where I reckon there must have been a marathon coming up. There must have been a race that weekend because there were several people that clearly weren't there. So I won the Rother Valley one, and I'm pretty sure last year I won Millhouses once because he was there.
I've just done my first park run.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I've been running for about just over a year now, and I just for whatever reason had a couple of clients cancel. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and do it, because Saturday morning for me is a bit of a no-go with the one-to-one clients. So I went and did my first one, and Strava massively messed my times up. So Did
it though?
Yeah, no.
World record pace.
World record pace, right? Okay.
Well, based on my 4 kilometre time, I set a world record basically.
Fantastic.
So it didn't happen by then. But yeah, something happened on the GPS, and it basically said I did a 143 kilometre.
Fantastic! Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, Parkrun's been brilliant. I think it's 20. Is it 20 or 25 years old this year? So they just had the anniversary, and I think we ran that one. I mean, you're getting up to 500 or 600 people at Millhouses and Endcliffe, and then now got the Park Walk, which does add numbers, and it's a little bit dicey getting around people, but. Yeah, the accountability side of that, which you can make as your default run every week if you wanted it to, and top it up in and around. The amount of kids that are doing it, young teenagers or just around about that 9 or 10 or 11 years old, even if they have to run with their parents, it's unreal really, because not only are they keeping that level of accountability, they're getting good quick. And we wouldn't have been that good at that age at the sport that, something like running where they're going around in 22, 23 minutes in a 5K. It's amazing to see. And that is Parkrun that started that, and letting people go off and then find trail running or find a running club or, just something that they can go and then do on their own or with friends or it's amazing what Parkrun's done. Like
you said, it makes quite an isolated, somewhat lonely sport sometimes. Very community driven, there's people around you. And I always say this, any race that I've ever done, it's like the crowd sort of pulls you along. It's really strange. So to get that experience from a couple of practice runs on a Saturday morning is absolutely amazing.
Well, it's great for the coffee after if you find the best coffee. And it's also for marathon training or any longer distance training. People either do the parkrun sandwich or a parkrun finisher, where you can do your 20 miler and have those last 3 and a bit miles as parkrun. So when you really need that lift, you've got a few hundred people around you. You still can keep the same pace. You don't have to worry about gunning it for those last 3 miles. You should really stick to plan. But I've done my Boston Marathon training last year was all based around finishing Saturday long run at Parkrun.
Wow, I didn't know that. And so people actually come there after having done
time it
basically like 20 odd miles, and then they'll go and finish off.
Use it as lots of people we know do it and finish off. That's awesome. use it as that one to time it right. You might have a minute or two where you've just got to suck it up and just listen to the announcements and whatever, but as long as you're not trying for a quick time, you shouldn't be trying for a quick time after doing 17 miles. But you can get that nice little lift of going around.
That's cool. What, that Parkrun sandwich?
Parkrun sandwiches, then you do it in the middle. So you run from home, parkrun, and then run back. So that's the parkrun sandwich.
That's cool.
What was your winning time, by the way, on the parkrun?
I did a PB at Rother Valley the other week. It was 17:39, I think.
That's incredible. Yeah. Well, even with my suspect 4 kilometre, I only got 18.
Still, take it.
It knocked 2 minutes off my PB, and I'm yet to break the sub 20 minute mark.
What did Parkrun tell you did that day?
23 minutes.
Okay, there we
go. So somewhere it got 5 minutes wrong somewhere. Even when I finished, I was like, brilliant, it must have been the crowds. I didn't even question it, I stupidly. And then someone went through my splits on Strava. I was like, that was a quick 4th kilometre.
Also, somebody did talk shit on Strava.
Someone did.
That looks suspect.
They did, yeah. Only because I got 30 seconds better than his PB.
Oh, fair. I did the same, to be fair.
I probably would.
You mentioned Boston Marathon then as well, with that last year?
Yes.
Yeah? How was that?
Unreal. So I don't think that can be topped, or I don't think I'll top it for a running event. And maybe we'll try. But to qualify for it in, I think it was 2022, or get the qualifying time, in 22. And then we just both realised we'd got a time. Rach and I realised we had. So we put in for the good for age, and bizarrely, and I think it's going to get even worse, they trim it down based on how many applicants they've had. So I think the qualifying time for me was something like 3:11, and they knocked 6 minutes off because of the amount of people that had entered.
Oh wow!
So you've automatically know you should be under 3:11, but then with all of these majors, you could be hit with that further. You know, you might not get in at 3:10.
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that for what wave is that?
So that's just all of the majors. So Boston, Chicago, New York, all of those. So you put in knowing that is your qualifying time. And I was lucky. I had more of a buffer. I had a quite nice one. Rach was a bit tight, but she had 2 or 3 minutes still after that in her time. So yeah, we went and both managed to get in. Went over to Boston and had the most. It's just an unreal place anyway. As a city, I've never been. It's just it feels really like home straight away. Bizarrely, the airport is 10-minute Uber from the international airport, 10-minute Uber from the city centre, which I've never experienced. Just being able, you think you're going to have this massive commute from outside of the city, and you're going to be shattered by the time you get there. We're in our hotel inside 15 minutes of getting our bags.
That's too much time spent in Spain, that where you get to the airport and you've got a 45 hours drive.
However long. And then the city, for that entire weekend, it's Patriots Day on the Monday when it's actually run, but the whole build-up was just incredible. So we went to the Boston Red Sox to watch them, and they wear the Boston Marathon kit colours that weekend. Wow. So I was in one of the earlier waves, just behind the elites, so I was the second wave back, and we had the flyover of the F-30 whatever jets and the Star Spangled Banner in the middle of the baseball pitch out at the city outside of Boston, where you're 26 and a bit miles away, and you bust out in yellow buses. So everybody gets bussed out to the start in the school buses.
Wow.
Hundreds of them. And I had to go out earlier than Rach because she was in a later wave. It was the most incredible experience. And because you've qualified, with the time you qualify, you're running alongside peers. So you're running alongside people of that speed-ish, not behind a fridge or a Spider-Man or someone in a tutu. So you've
actually get London marathons.
Yeah, which is some of the marathons that you get where it's a bit more like that. So immediately when we set off, there was this cadence that everyone was hitting straight from the off, and all you could hear was the people's feet, nothing else. It was unreal.
I guess because everyone's running in the same tempo. It's like a rhythmical march almost.
Yeah. And we'd gone from Britain from January to March last year, which, if you remember, just rained for 3 or 4 months, and we landed in Boston at 24 degrees. So it was bad, actually. It wasn't great. It was great for the first couple of days, but then marathon day itself, it just sapped us a little bit. So I think and they've got the Newton Hills. Don't know if you know much about that race. So the Newton Hills are a fairly nasty set of hills, about 16 to 20 miles, and they zapped. They took it out of us. So.
Oh, we're from Sheffield. We should be.
Should be all right. But I was looking at the Americans either side, and it was like The Walking Dead. There was people. People just got hit really badly. So, but I didn't stop. I made sure I didn't stop.
Good. Yeah. Sometimes that's all it takes, isn't it? You're not too bothered about timings or whatever's else going on. If I can just keep putting one foot in front of it on those longer runs, it's just as simple as that.
Yeah, definitely. It was an amazing experience.
What's your marathon PB?
2:55.
Wow.
Yeah, and I want to go quicker this year.
That's incredible.
Rachel's just probably got a Chicago qualifier with her time. Probably not New York. I think that's a bit too ambitious because I think they knock 13 minutes off what they can. So she's just landed it on me that I've got to run a marathon in the autumn. So I'm mulling over entering one, and the guy I work with a little bit on my running out in Doncaster, I've told him what my PB is, and he says that's a faffy target. He says I want you to be at least 5 minutes under that.
Okay. So you've got a coach as well, running coach?
Well, I did a lactate test. I did a blood lactate test, and it is with a guy that does coaching. And that was a great experience actually, because I've never known the data about me. So you know kind of those approximate things about running, something like running, or a lift, or a PB, or something you've done. But the lactate test was really interesting because it was about my, my blood, my heart, my lungs, so he does a full sort of, not an MOT, but he does a full check on you, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then gets you on a treadmill and just basically puts you through about half an hour of building the pace and seeing that lactate turn point, which I'd never done. And then you come back and you've got your zones, and he says, you're not running quick enough. So,
Thanks.
Or he told me I wasn't running quick enough anyway. So
it's fascinating. 'Cause I'm actually thinking about getting one.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned obviously about high rocks over the weekend, and a lot of these. I mean, it's what separates the average from the elite now is the running, because it's 50% of the workout itself. And I know that if I want to get better, that's something that I vastly need to improve on. So it's something I'm looking into, and all the top guys getting these lactate tests, tell them how to train, what the best zones are, how frequently you should be hitting these zones in your week. It's just something I've not really considered. You know, when you get into running, you've been doing it for a year or so, you're kind of just thinking about, right, can I get my times down a little bit? How more frequently can I train in the week? But then it starts to turn to actually what's best for you, what is most optimal. So I need to know that data now. So
yeah,
where was this you worked for this?
So I went in Doncaster.
Okay. I might get some info for you.
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to share it. I mean, I hit my 10k PB just after it, which won't be related to it. There would have been obviously a psychological boost for that.
He'll take full credit, I'm sure.
Yeah, he took a bit of credit, no doubt. And then I worked to the same plan for the half marathons around about Sheffield, and just before I did 2 halves very close to each other, and I trained the same plan each week for 12 weeks. And I tell you, that was draining, because a marathon block, you build up the distance, you know where you're going with it. This one was, I don't want to change anything, but run that run quicker, run that run a bit longer. And so my week wasn't changing too much, but I did it for 12 weeks, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to hit this PB. No way. And I knocked 2.5, nearly 2 minutes off. I 1:18:30. Which for the half, which I didn't think I'd hit, and he still told me it's not good enough. He still told me I should be quicker.
I can't decide if that's jealousy on Ryan's face or complete admiration.
Disbelief.
I don't know how I do it, because I actually look at some of the photos and I look like an old man now, so I don't know if I'm just hobbling around and then my Strava's just telling me, I'm managing to cut a corner or something.
I always wonder this, where people's mind goes when they run, especially because you're doing such intense distances. Like, where does your mind go? Do you just switch off, or?
Yeah, I think it is one of those, I suppose, cathartic, or it's a little bit one of those where I do go into that hurt locker a little bit, and I do go into the but I think for me there's a lot of thinking that gets done on the training runs, and I don't necessarily solve problems, but I think I just rationalise a few things and just don't work it out. It's just going over things sometimes reforms the ideas, or just shapes things up a little bit, or reminds you of stuff. And I think I'm still stupidly competitive about it, and I think it kind of is taking over still, to a point where I want to keep getting better. I don't know whether there's some of it that there's a bit of there's any history in it, or whether there's something in being sporty as a kid, and any regrets. I'm not quite sure, but I think my concern is, as I'm getting older, I want to keep getting fitter and stronger and faster, and I don't want things to start tailing off. I don't want that to happen. So I think there's a bit of a driver there for me, and I think that comes from worry that it is going to start at some stage. When people said last year or the year before, and someone mentioned, you can't keep hitting PBs, and I sort of said, why? And it will happen at some stage where something gives in, or my body doesn't quite hold up to what I'm trying to do. But I don't want that to be yet. I'm not ready.
I think it opens a good question that I really wanted to ask, actually. Do you think people are born with this, where they're born with the desire to be the best they can be, like that savage, shall we call it, mentality? Are people born with that? Is it something that's in them, or do you think it's developed over time? Well,
so I'm lucky that I've got a son in sport, which I think you probably don't want me to talk about too soon, but and I've got a daughter who isn't sporty, And equally I was, and my wife did sports as a kid as well. So I've got this, I think it's developed. So the difference with me and my upbringing is I probably did everything, every sport at school, and then had regrets that surely I should have specialised. My dad kept saying to me, and it rings true all the chuffing time, oh, if you'd have only done that 3 times a week, if you'd only done cricket 3 times a week, you could have. And how's he meant to know, by the way? But equally, that's not helpful, because I think that stayed with me for a very, very long time, where I thought, well, I could have been a single handicapper golfer. I could have been a kid that maybe did get picked for Yorkshire Kids at cricket. Whatever it is, to be told that many times about that many sports by somebody that is your closest person to you.
Someone you look up to.
He played squash, he played golf, and he went to the same school as a kid himself. So you kind of think, well, to be told that many times, yes, I probably should have done something with it. But I think that's developed through me. I don't necessarily think I was born with it. I think that's just then made me think, damn it, I'm really cross that either they didn't steer me or somebody didn't steer me. But I had a chat with a life coach, even probably 10 or 15 years ago, and I remember him saying, but that was never going to be the case for you. You can't put your adult mind back in your 17-year-old body and suddenly make that happen. That doesn't exist. It's impossible. You can think it now, but you're wasting your time. And so I think that gave me peace. And it made me think, actually, the things that you start to narrow down when you've done sport for so long, and sport is great because it helps business and it helps build relationships and it helps build a team and it helps in so many ways. But when you narrow it down to either something you really love or the things that you can fit in or the things that can fit around busy lives and busy family, then I think that is the peace that comes from then going, right, I'm just going to absolutely gun this now. And if I was to play a game of cricket, I'd be okay. I wouldn't be, I could play a little Sunday family game, or if someone said, can you just fill in, or someone said, do you want to play football? No, not so much. I'm just worried about how many people pull hamstrings when they haven't played for 15 years and go and do it. Yeah. Whereas I think I'm now seeing kids in an elite sport close up because of the upbringing we've had for one of our children, and they've got something. This is different that I've experienced. That they've got something that I don't think you can just magically train somebody to have, especially in a sport like diving. So maybe if you go into some of the sports that are properly, Olympic level, or some of the high level sport, how football has changed and how cricket, how are they seeing something at 95 miles an hour? I don't know whether you can say that it's either, but equally there has to be something that people are born with.
Yeah. We had Dave Hembrough on last week, and he was talking about the fundamental skills. He talked about GAS, which was gymnastics, athletics and swimming, and how they're kind of 3 fundamentals for building a really strong foundation for kids to go on and do kind of whatever they want in any sport. But within all those is some really key attributes like balance, coordination, certain motor skills that are developed through those sports. But I think after a certain point you have to start specialising, don't you? They're great up until, I don't know, like 8, 9, 10. Yeah. And at that point then you have to go, right, what do I really want to pursue a little bit harder? But I'm glad you gave the answer about it not being something you're born with, because no one's born a David Goggins, right? No one is born and comes out the womb and is like, I want to smash every workout and be the best I can be and have that savage mentality. You can have all the ability in the world. You can see the guys that your son's diving with and think this is a God-given talent, but that's someone who developed and honed that with the kind of likes of their parents, with the likes of coaches, people they surround themselves and their social circles. It isn't just something that develops out of nothing. Certain kids will go further in that sport because of their God-given genetic ability, whatever it is. You see, I saw it a lot as a footballer. Like, when I was younger, some kids would just have it. It doesn't matter how good the best player on your team was. Some guy could come in and he was just naturally unbelievable, and you couldn't touch him. But no one's born a savage.
No, you're only born with a few. You're born with a couple of fears, and there's only a couple of things you naturally, and everything else comes from development, doesn't it? I think the Archie side, it's weird because I don't know why I did it, but every time Archie asked if he could jump off something from being about 2, I'd just say to him, "Well, do you think you can do it?" Yes. And I'd trust every time he wanted to jump, I'd trust him. I wouldn't tell him.
Okay.
I wouldn't tell him what my opinion was. And I think that's been an interesting thing with him. And I think when we're growing up, we need to learn how to fall. We need to learn how to bump ourselves. You talked about the motor skills, and you talked about memory and muscle. I suppose it comes from muscle memory as well. But sport lets you do that. Sport lets you take a tumble. And the ones that don't do it, or that flunk out of PE, or that avoid it like the plague, they don't understand then what it's like to take a tumble, or what it's like to be hit, or what it's like to fall over and trip or to graze yourself or whatever. And I do think sport develops a lot of those things for kids as they're growing up, and it doesn't just have to be because of sport. It has to be because of whatever else they're going to come into contact with.
I think it's the ability to take instruction, to be consistent, to show up when maybe you're not really too bothered about. And as the dad of a boy as well, who also likes jumping off things, and I've probably share a similar philosophy with my boy Ted, from like, well, what do you think? And he's always saying, "Dad, watch this. Dad, watch this." Was Archie very similar? Like, "Dad, watch this"?
He wasn't. So, family videos from back in the 70s or 80s, when camcorders were first a thing, I think I would have been the one that did "Daddy, Daddy, look at me." Whereas I think he did a bit of that, but he was always saying, "Can I? Can I do it?" And he wasn't nervous. He was wanting to just do that in a different way. So
I like his manners in that he asked you.
Yeah.
Opposite to me as a kid, I would have just jumped straight off and asked for forgiveness later.
The huge bins at Endcliffe Park. I remember going to the park with some friends and just dog walk or whatever. And Archie had climbed onto one of those massive bins and just went, "Daddy, can I jump off?" And I remember this friend looking at me and looking at Archie as if to say, you're not going to let him, are you? And I think I said, "Well, can you do it, dude?" And he was like, "Yeah." I think he did a front somersault off it or something. It might have been when we were getting to that stage that, "Daddy, can I do a front somersault off this?" And he might have been 3 or 4. And I said, "Do you think you can?" "Yeah, I can." Bang, bang.
Hold on, mate. 3 or 4 years old, and it's a front somersault off it.
He was doing sort of the part. He was doing the parkour style things in play parks. He was doing those from very, very young. He was doing summies and jumping from the concrete blocks to concrete. Yeah, he was.
That is that's seriously impressive.
I mean, have you seen some of the heights they have to jump from? I mean, we'll get into this in a little bit about like the Red Bull cliff diving. But just out of curiosity, I googled like, how much bigger is this from a 10-meter diving board?
Did you not know?
I had no idea. It's an insane height. I can't. Is there anything that is approached and you've gone, "God, no"?
I think because of what we've done, which I guess you want to get into, because of what we've done, we've never gone to place. I think there's one place we went to specifically because of what he wanted to jump off. We've never let him go off and do some sort of stuff we're not completely comfortable with. So if we've gone to Scotland, for example, when he was young and both kids were young, we would probably try and find somewhere where we knew that was a place that people jumped off, for example. So it might have just been a waterfall you could swim in. And there was one place in Scotland where we did get to once, and it was way higher than we thought in the end. And people were jumping off it, but they were more sort of teenagers and people drinking and whatever. And it was a picnic spot. And I did take one look at it, and I said, "Archie, please, we're not doing this one." And lo and behold, the next thing we saw 10 or 15 minutes later was him up at the top, having got himself up there. And I can't remember how old he was, maybe 10, 11, 12. And I think it was about 15 metres. It was over 10 metres, I'm sure. And that was the first and only time I've sort of been worried, because then I went up and found my way up there. And I did say to him, you can't just do, and he's the first time he's done it. And to be fair, we've kept everything so structured, so well considered. We've always researched where we've gone. So we haven't just gone and said, look at this, wouldn't it be great too? We've gone to places that we know people have been to before. And that was the one. And I think he ended up, we talked about it, we discussed it. There was a set of kids there that were pretty okay, who'd done it before. So we did have conversations, and he eventually went off it once, no head first, clearly. And I think that was the one time where we took so much before we did it to actually do the jump. And he did, but other than that, the main thing is that we don't go off and find anything that we're not sure about. And we know people do. We know that is a bit of that. There is that drive for adrenaline from some of those that age, and we've made sure we've fulfilled any urges he might have. He's never said he's needed that more. We've fulfilled anything that could happen by doing it the right way, we think.
Just thinking how incredible that is, that a 10-metre diving board into a pool is not enough adrenaline.
It's important we give a bit of context, obviously, who your son is, what he does, maybe just for our audience.
Yeah, so Archie's an elite diver at Sheffield Diving Club, City of Sheffield. He's been there since he was 6, along with a bunch of kids of various, elite level, some really talented kids there, and he's dived in sort of various squads right up to now being 17, so he's been there for just over 10 years. Amazing club in an amazing facility, and they're doing unbelievable stuff. So he does that sort of elite pathway with the diving club for now. Got his coach, and he's there 6 times a week. And then he has sort of gone and done a little bit more of a diverse version of diving over the last handful of years, which is a bit crazy. So he does something fairly unique, which is high diving, which is a lot higher than 10 metres, as it were.
Can confirm, yeah.
As you say this, I can see a nervousness around.
No, I'm not. I'm really cool with it. So I'm way more nervous when they're doing that sort of Olympic diving, because I think there's so much pressure built up over the years in them. They've got 2 or 3 competitions in that year where a lot's riding on it. 10 metre stuff now. He's doing some pretty good stuff. It's great that he's with a lovely set of competitive divers within the same club, and then from around the country and around the world, they've got to know a lot of people as well. So he has represented GB recently at age group as his age, and he's done junior Europeans, and so, but that level comes with I feel it comes with so much pressure. They really are put through it, and it's great because the discipline they've got, the life experiences they have. They go on chaperone trips. They have to stay in hotel rooms with a mate in a hotel room. They're not with parents sometimes. They've got to then cope with the competition and eating and sleeping and kit, and so it's amazing what they've done. The high diving is for us a Brucey bonus. So we've fallen into this world from him first doing the Barani, which is the feet first. I don't know how much you know about diving, but hands first up to 10 metres. So everything, Jack Law, Tom Daly, okay. So everything is hands first. So it's all about that Olympic level of diving. He's now doing 3.5s off 10 metre. He's just done a back 2.5, dub 2.5, I'll get it wrong, so what's the point in trying, whereas 2 twists and 2 somersaults, and it's a big dive, so he's just starting to do that one. But when he was about 10 or 11, we saw him in free time. All of the kids were doing various different things, and he'd go up onto 10 metre and do some feet first, where he'd come out half twist but come out to feet, so he'd still do the somersaults. I'd be like, what are you doing? I've seen it on YouTube, it's high diving. I'm like, okay, where does this go? And we sort of developed from an absolute zero understanding to, well, this is what Red Bull do, isn't it? And this is so he'd help us a little bit, help us to understand it, and we'd take it in, think, well, what can you do? Well, he's 10, what can you do? Or he's 11, what can you do? And his coach at the time said, well, let's just keep it to ourselves, shall we? And I thought, that's told me.
Okay.
And then I think I reached out to someone at Red Bull, LinkedIn, power of email, power of whatever. And I just said, look, my boy's 11 and he's doing this Red Bull move, here's some videos, what do you think? Thinking that suddenly the floodgates will open, and it isn't, because he's 10 or 11. And they were great. They came back really quick, to be fair. And they said, look, he's cool. That's cool to be doing it. Our sport is amazing and blah, blah, blah. And but he's got time. Just let it enjoy it. And then I think COVID hit, and then so he couldn't dive in the pool or anything. Then just after COVID, I took him to Northern Ireland to one of the Red Bull stops. Randomly, just thought you could just turn up to these things. Well, no, it's ticketed. It's high security. They don't let you within 2 miles of it. It was on the coast. It was on the coast of.
Is that for safety and stuff like that? Is it?
I think it's just because Red Bull events, and COVID was probably at the time, so it was absolutely locked down. And I think most of them are ticketed. So I sort of emailed my contact there and just said, look, are Archie and I okay? Oh yeah, come along as our VIP guest. So we met all the divers that weekend on the edge of the cliffs.
Game over then, wasn't it?
It was game over. It changed him. So he was looking at this huge coat. I mean, unbelievable photos that we got, and he met all these divers, talking to them all, chatting to them all. They all started following him on Instagram and everything. And he came back and he was a bit changed, but then still the development of that was, he was still way too young. And then we just genned ourselves up. So we got to know a couple of the divers. So bizarrely, Rhiannon Ifland is the 7 or 8 time world champion. So the level of Red Bull that you see in Formula One and whatever, and she's contactable to us anytime. David Kulturi, a legend of the sport, and he's one of our closest people that we know in the sport now. And he's just been a mentor and a coach to Archie, because there's not really any coaches. So then we found out that you could go to Austria, the training facility, up to 27 metres. This is the first reveal of what height we're looking at. It's up to 27 metres that they compete off. The men compete off that.
Wow.
The women compete off 21.5. And so we went over to Austria. We went to a competition in Switzerland, and we just started to let him venture into it and see what he thought and how he could be in that little part of the world. So after all of the regular diving season finished, we had the little Brucey bonus of being able to go out to Austria.
Has this helped his more technical stuff, do you think? Do you think he goes back to the 10 metre board now and goes, this is nothing?
I think it means that he's never had fear.
Okay.
So his
confidence is not big.
His awareness, if you see kids take a hit in the pool and it's just like, it looks awful. It looks so painful. They take the hit and they eventually get themselves back up and whatever. And he's like, Dad, it's 10 seconds of pain. I'm back. I'm fine. And I think the interesting thing about going higher than 10 metres, even if you're landing to feet, is that you go back to the pool and nothing seems as high, like you've just said. Mm-hmm. But then he developed those dives. So pool is everything for Archie's high diving. So the ones that are doing great, I think these days, are the ones that have had either really good trampolining background, or that they've got a very strong 10 metre background as well.
Okay.
So he's managing now at the moment to do most of the twists and somersaults before he gets to 20 metres. So he's done it in the first 7 metres. So he's now doing 27 metre dives, which he's done.
It must, for a diver, that's like, it's more time, it's more room, it's more space between board and like pool or water to kind of get your moving essentially. So.
Yeah, so he manages to. He's at the moment doing back double half. So he does his 2 somersaults, half twist, and then he has the 20 metres to come and do that last twist to feet. It's a long way to fall. Yeah. But I think the best thing about it is the confidence it's given him, the experience and everything like that, the life experience, and those people to be around. And so over the first few years, he just built up to 20 metres, and that was just amazing. So we'd go over and have our week holiday, and he'd go and do that. And then he eventually managed to go off the Red Bull platform, the 21.5 in Italy at 14 with the training dive.
Was he the youngest?
So that was the youngest ever to go off a Red Bull platform at the time. They couldn't social media it. We couldn't social media it. We weren't allowed. It's below 16. Red Bull can't have marketing around that. So that was it, but it was so cool. It was the most cool experience. And then he went along to, we went to Poliano last year, same venue, beautiful, absolutely stunning off the cliffs of Poliano. And they gave him, as they do every year, they gave him athlete status. They let him go to all the meetings. Then they let him do a training dive off the real one. He just turned 16 last year. So that made him the youngest ever to go off. And then the call, he got sort of competition. Would you come to Trieste and compete? Invite only, 12 men, 12 women. And he came 7th.
Wow.
So only Red Bull athletes beat him. And then Red Bull call that night. It was the night of the Euro final, the England-Spain Euro final. We were in Trieste watching it, gutted that they lost. And he had Red Bull on the phone to him. I had Red Bull on the phone to me saying, can you be in Ireland next week? We want you to compete.
Unbelievable.
Rach, can you sort flights out? Can you sort hotel out? Can you get us to Ireland next week? And then he did Oslo last year as well. So he did 2. So his summer was burnout level of craziness.
What I love about all that is just your eagerness to drive him to be the best he can be, and to go out your way to kind of, you say maybe it was a chance thing when you were on Ireland and you took him there, but there's a lot of parents who wouldn't have done that, wouldn't have taken them there, would have maybe been a bit more cautious. You seem to have really been on the forefront of being like, this is something you can go and do, and if you want to go and do it, let's go and explore it. And little things like, having them on the phone and having the athletes, the Red Bull athletes at your kind of, disposal. It's great to kind of see you pushing it. It really is.
Yeah. It just, I don't want to not have been present for it. I don't want to not be part of it. And he has a bit of an issue with how involved, I guess, we still are, unfortunately, because we are in an adult's world, and he's been a kid up to now. So he wants to go and do it on his own. So we do have those battles and those arguments where we're around people that we've got to know. So we're around these athletes and the organisers, and Red Bull as a company and an events organising team, it's a massive team. To a person, they are unreal. They are never not smiling. They are doing some really sketchy stuff. He's being rappelled down a cliff edge in Ireland, and Bernd is holding the rope, and I'm a mile away, at least a mile away. I couldn't even see it. We were that far away, because it was all for YouTube and Red Bull TV. And he was rappelling Archie down to the little ledge that would have been only a foot wide. Yeah. And he's sending me a photo of Archie to 1.5 miles away, saying, this is what your son's doing right now. Even I'll show you after we've been on, but if I remember, but last year in Oslo has a 30-metre long platform from the Opera House with no railings, no harness, and it is as wide as this table-ish.
Jesus.
And they go 30 metres out before they go 27 metres down to the water. And I'll show you the video because...
You're not doing that on a windy day.
No. My toxic trait is wanting to walk that.
Mine's wanting to run away from it.
Yeah. So we didn't get to go on that platform, but bless him, he got to Oslo on his own at 16, through Schiphol Airport, out from Manchester Schiphol, Oslo into town, and then got himself to the hotel. After I'd said, would you just ask them if you could change the flight that they've booked you, because we can't afford the flight that you're on. Right. We can afford the flight later on EasyJet, but please do. Would you do? No, I'm not doing that. Well, you're going to have to go on your own then. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So he went off and did that and stayed in the team hotel. Great. They're just amazing with him. But then just as we were meeting up with him, he managed to come out and meet us for a game of pool. And we saw on Instagram he'd done this walk out with Ginny, one of the other divers, and the 360 camera to show this 30 metres out, show the view, it was a Red Bull content hour. He'd been asked to do it, and he's in slides, not in trainers.
Wow.
So
I'd love to be 16 again. This sounds amazing.
And they're looking over the edge. It's concrete, 27 metres down. There's concrete. Oh, look how high it is, Ginny. Oh, yes, isn't it, Archie? Yes, it is. I'll show you the video. It's unreal.
That's amazing.
I love how you're finding out what your son's up to through the Red Bull, like Instagram and social media.
I was a bit wobbly about that one because he did say, "Oh no, it's fine. I did it. It's fine. It's fine."
Yeah, because me and my wife always say, when you have a kid, it's a bit like watching your heart run around. So the thought of watching my heart at the top of this giant cliff does Rach share similar opinions to what you do, or do they always say a little prayer just before he goes out?
High diving. I'm not. That's what I was trying to say earlier on. I'm not nervous about. He's so aware in the air. His awareness is quite unique. So whether we talk about this being born, whether we talk about being developed, his awareness in the air is in 10 metre or high diving quite unique. And he hasn't got the fear, and he's yet to do the really complex stuff. So some of them are doing 5 somersaults in the air before they hit the water. When those complex dives comes in, I think I'll have another level of worry, because this last summer when he was first doing the new ones that he competed, he had to get 4 dives ready. He was telling David on the phone in LA, I'm going to do such and such dive and such and such dive, and I was like, oh, I don't want him to do that dive. I don't want him to do that. And then when I saw him lead up from 10 to 15 to 20 to 27, he's made that easy. What was I worried about? And so when he goes and competes, I'm not worried at all.
So he's almost
Rach about the same.
Fulfilled your confidence issues because you just see him do these things and you're like, okay. And I guess it comes from that, doesn't it? Him backing up what he says he's going to do.
Yeah.
There's an overwhelming amount of evidence for you to suggest that I know he'll be okay. I've seen his dives before. I've seen his level of skill. There's faith there, which is tricky as a parent, isn't it? You don't always have that, because like Brad says, it's like wearing your heart out there, isn't it? You've got something that you've been so invested in, your little baby up there on these cliffs and on these big high diving boards.
Would you mind if I break for the toilet?
Oh, of course, no, absolutely not. No, don't worry.
All right, we're back with the 27 metre story. Let's jump in.
Yeah, his first 27 metre was in Austria. So this facility is sort of, I suppose, like Rother Valley, but on speed. So it's a water park, but they've built a dedicated platform with slides and everything. But it's got hydraulic from 10 to 20.
So it can move up and down.
Yeah, so you can choose your height all the way up. So I was lucky enough to do the hydraulics last summer. but then a few years before, when he did his first one, he was with David, Rhiannon. And so what happens is they do the lead-ups, and then at 20... you sort of capped off. Then it is a set of stairs up to 27 that gets locked. You get locked in. There's a cage around it to obviously stop members of the public that are going for the general water slides. So I think that is a real nervy moment, because that one dive took about 15 minutes to set up and do. And I was pacing up and down the decking on the ground, and Rach was leaving me alone, which she needed to do. I don't think she was too worried. But so he did his lead-ups. Then David goes and locks him in that cage for him to walk up onto the 27 metre on his own, because David has to be the safety diver. Or someone has to be, because he needs a safety diver. This is why we've done it the way we've done it. So all of that happens, then David has to jump off 20 metres, because that's the quickest way of him getting into the water. Wow. So he does a dive, and then Archie's up there, and so that all took about 10 or 15 minutes of me pacing up and down, of thinking, is he going to be all right? Is he going to be all right? And
how old is Archie at this age?
I think he was 14. 13, 14. I think he was 14, yeah. He probably just turned 14. And it was a very simple dive. So I think it was one summy, one half type thing. I think he'll correct me again. And so yeah, he landed it pretty well. Landed it, pretty happy with it. But when he took off, there is that 3 seconds of holding your breath probably about 3 seconds, and landed it well. David was there. It was all good. First thing he came out was, I didn't rip it, or I should have ripped it, and he didn't rip it. But yeah, it was that's a nervy moment.
He seems like he's just fearless, this lad.
Yeah.
He really does. Like, there's nothing that phases him. What's the highest he's ever?
That is
27.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the competition level. Be very, very dicey going off higher. The impact that they're taking is pretty harsh as it is. He does say, my bum and my bits. I won't say what he actually says, unless we're all right. But he says his bum and balls. Sometimes you can catch that, and I'm sure all of them feel that. But that's the height that he ultimately will compete at. And hopefully he's going to want to keep going with it. It'll be interesting to see after his A-levels what he does. Red Bull have got a short calendar this year, so he won't really get the chance this year because there's some big names that were injured last year. But they are an absolutely amazing set of people and an amazing sport to be part of. It's so friendly.
I feel like they've really cornered that part of the market as well, because all the extreme sports, we've had Davy Burks on talking about the X Games and stuff, and just the way that they're really pivoting and saying all these niche, unique sports, we're going to give people opportunities.
And the locations they can choose as well. They've just done the Philippines, which is one of the 4 stops. They usually do 7 stops. They're only doing 4 this year. The Philippines stop looked unreal. Probably not great for the divers at times. I think it was probably really sketchy. But the way that it's come across in all of the imagery and the films was unreal. And we were lucky enough, we got to see the media pack because Archie gets sent it now because he's not a Red Bull athlete, but he is classed as a Red Bull cliff diver. So he gets sent that media pack at the end, and the impressions and the billions of views that they're getting and achieving is great. He doesn't realise how amazing it is, actually.
He will at some point. There'll be a turning point where he realises what this opportunity is and what it means to him. But they're just, I agree with Adam, they're just pumping so much money into it. And they're very good, actually, Red Bull, in their marketing campaigns, hence why they get so many billions of views. And there's a big push now on world records. Well, there has been for quite a while, hasn't there? Because those records are something that doesn't just put the athlete and the achievement in the record books, but it puts the brand in the record books as well.
Yeah.
And they obviously know that. And they're just cool to watch. Like, you go online every now and again and you'll see some bloke BMXing off trains and stuff, and you're like, that's just really cool. And I love the fact they're pushing all these sports, and diving included.
Well, I think there's about 26. I might have got the number slightly wrong, but 26 Red Bull athletes in the UK, and you wouldn't necessarily know some of them because I don't think all of them can talk about it or do talk about it. So we ended up finding out things like Ben Stokes being a Red Bull athlete, and they've got that, but that gives them. There's so much behind it. Archie went to Red Bull High School in September, which was with 5 other divers from around the world, all similar age or a bit older. So he met some new friends doing that, and 5 of them were taken to Austria, and they got 2 days at the Red Bull Athlete Centre training.
So they have a Red Bull school?
Well, they did for this set of kids. They just tried it as a new initiative. I overheard Julia, who's, I suppose, Archie's surrogate mum within Red Bull, talking to somebody about this Red Bull High School initiative, and they were wanting to take 5 divers to World Cup level. Because Archie can't compete for GB at high diving.
Right.
He's too young still.
What's the age?
18.
Okay.
So he can compete he can compete in a Red Bull event. He can't compete for GB until he's 18. They do have now some World Cups, so they do have it alongside some of the regular diving and regular swim, sort of Super Cups and World Cups. I can't remember the way the calendar works, but until he's 18, he's not allowed to compete for GB, which is a bit bonkers because he's able to go toe to toe with some of the best in the sport. At least compete alongside them.
Is it set at 18 and not 16?
There must be some regulations about. They're not sure the impact it's having, and I suppose they don't want people to just be trying this.
Yeah.
I guess whether you include this or not, China will be ending up. They're not involved yet, so they've sent kids to the first junior high diving competition last year which got abandoned because of the facility for the first time, and that was only off 12 and 15 meters.
Okay.
And they sent kids for the first time, and I can't remember whether I've actually definitely had this conversation, which is why I'm reluctant to maybe say it to go out there. But I think they're worried that China will just chuck kids at it and won't care how it affects them. So they're trying to keep an age where China won't chase this too hard, because they're just a bit of a conveyor belt. If someone falls apart, they've got another 3, 5, 10, 15, 100 that can fit.
No, and again,
contentious.
That was going to be my question about something like skateboarding, in terms of, you had like, is it Sky Brown, who was like 13 competing at Olympic Games, but it makes complete sense from a safety aspect, maybe why skateboarding, kids are doing it from when they can walk, aren't they? So that's fine. And
plus we can't change it. So this time in the World Cup that's coming up in China in 2 weeks' time or whatever it is, there's going to be no British representation at high diving, because Aidan Heslop, who's the current Red Bull champion, is injured, might be back. There are others that can high dive, but the only other person, weirdly, is my son.
Wow.
And he's not old enough. And that's absolutely correct. There's another couple of people that are potentially capable. They're either unable to because of affiliations with things they've done, or they're just not at that level. Archie finished 20th in the world last year in the adult level. There's no other Brit, and he's not allowed to. And equally, when he turns 18, GB won't support him because it's a non-Olympic sport, so there's zero funding.
Okay.
Wow. This must be really exciting for you, though, to know your son's at such a good level and has the potential to be called up for like Red Bull and the Great Britain. It must be really exciting at such a young age to think, give it another 5-10 years even to think where he could be.
And actually, it's meaning some decisions based for his next level of education as well.
Of course.
So he's almost certainly going to the US for uni. And we're having some lovely conversations with some amazing coaches who do sometimes understand about the high diving stuff. Some get taken by surprise when you tell them about it, because they maybe didn't know Archie before, and why would they? But the only way of him keeping up his diving probably is going to be going to the US and doing a diving program there, which is a bit strange because Sheffield's been his home there. How does a coach necessarily keep motivated when they know they're going to lose the kid at just after A-levels to America? But equally, how can GB compete when they've got their set number of funded athletes? They've only got a finite amount of money and resource. The performance centre is Sheffield or London for diving. So he has to either go to university in Sheffield and tag diving on, because they're not linked, or go to London University and tag diving on because it's not linked. Or he goes to a university in America where, hopefully there'll be some degree of scholarship, and diving is an integral part, and they are linked academically and athletically together. And if you don't do one or perform in both, you could be kicked off the. It's that harsh, but also that's amazing.
Yeah, of course.
And then he gets to do potentially the high diving at Fort Lauderdale in the summer.
I relate to that a lot because my little brother, he went off to the States for, I'll say it in American, soccer.
To coach?
To actually
play.
Go and play, which
Nice.
was really cool. And he has nothing but positive things to say about the US and the sporting program and how it's all linked in with education, with, it's okay training like a full-time athlete, but you're also a full-time student as well. And I just think what an amazing balance that is for really, really talented, I'm going to say young adults, to go in and have the opportunity to come out with a scholarship, actual degree, but it's funded, whether partly or fully, and they get to travel and experience these amazing things. So what an opportunity for him.
Where did he go, your brother?
He ended up in a few places, which was cool. It was in Arkansas, then he went to St. Louis, and he tried his hand in LA, which was fun.
Which uni at LA?
I think he just went around. Went around trying to get a few trials and stuff. So he really enjoyed that. Yeah.
It's exciting, but it's crazy. We did UCAS forms when we were going to university. So you put your four choices down, and then you hopefully get one of them where you get your A-levels and go. This is a different world. We've got about 8 conversations floating around with different universities. over in America, and he's handling most of it as well. He's handling the Zooms, he's handling the WhatsApp video chats at 11 o'clock at night. And then that's great. It's a wild side of things to be doing. I don't know how he's doing what he's doing. I don't know how he's managing to keep up, actually.
Exciting though, really exciting for him. And is it just that then? Is it just the fact that the courses and the university studies over here just won't be as big a part of what he wants in his sport? Or is the coaching in America better as well? Is that part of the process of the American push? The coaching might be slightly of a better standard?
I think no. Again, I'm going to be speaking pretty honestly here. GB's the second in the world at diving.
Okay.
So there's no better coaching setup than China. Then you've got Great Britain, and there are some countries. You've got Germany, you've got Ukraine, and some of the other countries in Mexico. You've got some very, very good countries, but overall, as a package, GB's second in the world, and we get that from the Olympic medals. So if you're not part of the Olympic plan, so there might be less than 30 divers in the country who are, then unfortunately I think you've got to think about where you're going to be, and you're not going to be picked for some GB senior events ultimately, or you're not going to be what the coaches and that Olympic team are really after, then you are going to then go to a UK university and then still trying to do your sport, but it's not going to be linked. So there's going to be no link to GB. You're going to be almost an adult senior diver, choosing to do it off your own back. Whereas America, you are, like your brother's obviously experienced, you are classed as an athlete. Yeah. You're classed as representing the university, but you've also got that link to the academic side. And the coaches, no, they're not holding back. They're saying we want our athletes to be performing academically as well. So we keep an eye on your academics.
It's a tough call, isn't it? Because you want to stay here because maybe the coaching standard is better, but there's more of a cull as well, and less funding, less things like that. So
it's brutal.
It's a trade off, isn't it? Like what do you do?
Yeah, and
you think in America's definitely.
Oh, it's no doubt. He's pretty much made his choice. I think he'll do some visits in the autumn and go and see them. But he's got 6 or 7 universities that have sort of said they love him. The difference is America, which is really scary these days to think about. But their American football is like the championship. University American football is that level, whereas NFL is Premier League, or whatever you want to say it. Right. So there's been court cases in America where the American footballers at uni have said, hang on, we're playing in front of 90,000 fans.
I've heard about this.
Yeah.
So they're bringing in massive amounts of money.
Yeah, they're bringing in massive amounts of money in personal rights and things like that, and they're not getting paid what they feel of value. So there's been some big court cases. So it has changed the landscape, and we're sod's law, isn't it? Bloody changes where you just think, he's a shoo-in for a full scholarship, isn't he? Nah, not if he wants academically very strong and athletically very competitive, which is ultimately what he wants. He's a bright kid. So he doesn't want to just... There's a lot of people that might say, well, I just want a scholarship, don't care.
Okay.
Now, you could pick mid-level, you could get one, fine. He's like, no, absolutely not. I want to be challenged to go and study, and I want to be somewhere where I'm competing. But that translates into, we can't do your full ride. You're going to be needing to contribute, and some of the numbers are a little bit scary. Another mortgage type thing. But ultimately, this is an amazing opportunity. And the picks of the universities we're speaking to at the moment, they're amazing.
Yeah. Are you allowed to say?
I'm allowed to float some names around.
Yeah.
He's talking to places like, and there's no issue really with, I suppose, USC, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech. He had a conversation with Harvard. That seems to... The difference is Harvard don't have platform. They don't have 10 metre. They only have springboard because it's Ivy League. Okay. Where else? Ohio. There's been some
all the big sporting universities.
Penn State had so some really cool conversations. Yeah. Really cool. With lovely coaches. Berkeley, with lovely coaches as well.
Yeah. From what we've gathered so far, Archie strikes me as the sort of guy who's going to want to contribute and pay his own way potentially as well, like get stuck in with jobs and that sort of stuff. I know my little brother was really keen to do that, to immerse himself in the culture as well, just get to know people outside of his uni bubble and outside of his sporting bubble, and just work. And
maybe the image right thing will help him as well if he gets to be part of that Red Bull and starts to eventually get over that 16, 17-year-old nerves about posting on social media, because none of them really want to. They don't like to, or some of them do, but he definitely doesn't like posting stuff. He's very, very nervous about what people will think, and the upsetting people or whatever. So got a great set of mates, but I suppose he's got a lot of followers now. Or sorry, he hasn't got a lot of followers, but he's always worried about, I can't be posting about it all the time. When people,
but it's the way of the world now, isn't it? I think sponsorship's all based around followers, viewerships, what you're kind of bringing to the table in terms of your... Well, it's marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You are a marketing asset to any company who wants to sponsor you.
Yeah.
But I think that'll grow with age. It
will.
For sure.
He'll have to do it on his own. He'll have to make his own decisions. We can't tell him.
And I'm sure there's courses for everything. There's courses on like content production, and even just confidence online. And myself and Brad will tell you this from making content in the past. You make your first few videos, and they are complete dog shit. For lack of a better term.
I dread it. I absolutely dread doing our videos at work. I flipping hate it. It's like, just start speaking, I completely freeze. Totally freeze.
It's like you have a mind blank completely out of nowhere, and it's never happens any other time. Like, we don't have a conversation here, and your mind goes, but in front of a camera, it's like it all of a sudden just goes out the window.
But you wouldn't train your legs if you didn't train your legs and expect to be able to run.
Yeah.
Then why you're not? You've got to train your voice. You've got to train your speed. You've got to train your brain.
Go for all those confidence issues on camera and just make it more natural.
Yeah.
Even this, like, we probably wouldn't have done the podcast if we weren't a little bit well versed in some kind of form of putting ourselves out there, public speaking, things like that.
I thought we were somewhat interesting.
Somewhat being the main word there.
Somewhat.
But he'll get all that. That'll come with confidence. And again, it's that kind of overwhelming evidence that you are who you say you are. And as he grows as a individual in his sport and gets more confident, he'll have no issues sharing his journey and telling people what he's up to.
Well, his new dive on Friday, we were in Anglesey, his new dive on Friday, he sent to a US coach on a little group that we've got before he told us about it. I had one of the dads of another kid text me whilst I was away saying, just seen Archie do the dive. I've never seen a Sheffield diver do it, ever. It turns out Leon Taylor was the last person to do that dive for Sheffield. Wow. And it was a scrappy start, but as in he's got a lot to work on with it. But it was pretty wow. But he didn't tell us about it.
If it's any consolation, that's what my mum does. She's like, I've seen you've been to there with Ted on Instagram. I'm like, well, probably should have told you, Mum. Sorry.
Yeah.
Which relating it, I suppose, to, I'm going to say the everyday parent, the ones who maybe are keen to get the kids into sport. I'd love to sort of transition into your ethos in parenting. If that's all right, James, because I know you said like your own experience. Maybe with your own dad, just maybe saying, we could have done this or could have done that. How's your approach been with your two?
Well, I think with them when they were growing up, I think I was potentially a little bit harsh. I was a little bit of a tougher disciplinarian. Not too bad, but just, and I quite tough on Rosie, I think, as well. She was the firstborn, and I don't know why, but nothing that I kind of regret really, but just that way of being. And I suppose she's a bit of a good example because she didn't really want to do the sport. So it's been a lot different with her in terms of the things she wanted. She really wanted friendship groups, found school really hard. I think as she grew up, she gained anxiety very early on. So she's about 10 or 11 when we moved house. I think there was a trigger there. Something triggered when we moved house, that being in that safe place for 10 years of her life, and then suddenly we were moving. We made it magical. We made it nice. This is going to be your room. You're coming around to choose the house. We did all of that. But then she had a massive wobble the week before we moved. And that was, I suppose, something just triggered with anxiety with her. And we've had a lot of battles with trying to help her through that, both of us, and that's been so tough. So completely different from being able to talk for about 3 days to you if I wanted to about sport with Archie. The challenges of trying to help a growing teenage girl through anxiety was really tough. And I think the one thing we might have got a lot wrong between us, and we might have found it, devastatingly hard to see somebody growing up and being quite crushed. But she dealt with it. She dealt with it so much over the years, and she took so much. As friends were moving on, she was kind of getting left behind or having to be on the periphery of it. And that was tough. And I think the one thing that stands out to me now is when she was, COVID was not great for that age. So the ones that are now about 20, really tough for them all of them. Some have really struggled. But she started A-levels, was clearly not going to get on with it. And I just said, we need you out. We need you doing an apprenticeship. You're going to be better doing that. You're going to be better experiencing that. She tried to start it on her own. And I said, look, I know people through work that can be part of that apprenticeship. So it was the Source at the time before they got taken over. Let's do it right. Let's make sure you're with a company that does the apprenticeship right and finds you the employer. And we got her out of school as quickly as we could, really, because she was never going to be okay at A-levels. And that was, I think, a turning point, because she got a tough initial year with the company she was with. Wasn't a particularly nice culturally, but she got through that. And then she went and sought out her next role herself, and is now living in town in her own flat. Awesome. Having really worked out quite a lot, including walking through town with her the other day with a coffee, and even she started the gym. I've been telling her, why don't you just join a gym? Oh, stop going on about, no, it's not about just because you'll meet people, just because you'll do stuff, and just because you'll feel good, and it will help with anxiety. And she's had a diagnosis for adult ADHD. It will, you will get benefits. You will. And she kicked back every single time, and then suddenly she said, I've just joined Pure. Like, what the fuck? I've been banging on about this to you for years. I'm going at midnight, Dad. I'm going at 3 a.m. And she's now texting saying, I've just done a bench press PB. Nice. I'm like, what is this? Who are you? Who's kidnapped my chuffing dog? But then she wanted to get the food sorted. So she Googled, ChatGPT'd and Googled and got a menu plan for the week. Will you come around the shops with me and get it? I said, yeah, what? I'm not paying, but yeah, you're earning decent money. You're earning okay money now. You're paying, right? So we walked around, did it, and she found everything. She said, it's going to be 30, apparently it's going to be 30 quid, Dad. It was 32 quid. All right, that's fine. And it was all about getting some healthier stuff inside or whatever. And so but then she was walking through town. She said, I'm finally getting my shit together, aren't I? And I went, you've had your shit together for ages. You've just not realised it. You've done so much. And you've done so much you should be really proud of, actually. You're not doing it. It's a tough shift. She works at the front of house at a casino. It's not easy. She's dealing with people that can be rude, can be obnoxious, can be cocky, can try to get in when they shouldn't be getting in. There's some really strict rules she tells us over and over again about if she was to make a mistake and let somebody else in that was too young, she'd be fired. It would almost be that level of, or they'd lose their license type thing. Yeah. So she has to be really on it. And some of the stories she tells us, you didn't really say that though, did you? Well, no, I didn't say it like that. But she's made some massive changes, and to a point now where I don't want the drama anymore, Dad, and I'm happy in my little flat. And she's helping when we're talking about some of the things Archie's going through, because he's struggling a bit with what he's having to get to do as a 17-year-old kid with 4 A-levels and whatever. So she's saying, you were right with me. You were telling me that I wasn't going to be sick. You were telling me over and over again it wasn't going to happen, and I never was, but I never believed you. But looking back now, you made me go to school. She said you were right every time between you. So she said, Mum wore one hat, you wore a different hat, you were both right with me. And now the roles seem to be reversed with Archie, but you're both getting it right. Yeah. And Archie will thank you down the line. So that's pretty cool.
That's really nice. It's a really nice story that like she number one gets it now, that all those bits of advice you were giving her weren't just because you wanted to follow a certain path. It was for her best interest. And nice that she also understands how you're parenting Archie as well, and like is very cognizant of that, and is aware of kind of the advice you're giving to him.
We still would have that little moment, because she'd call a lot in the last year or 2 years, and it would be 9 o'clock at night, we'd just sitting down to watch one episode of TV, and the call would come in and it would be another drama, or it'd be another issue, or it'd be another panic, or it'd be another, and it would be that gut-wrenching, the phone's ringing, God's sake, it's going to be something else again. And of course you've got that whole, I need to be caring about it, but also there needs to be you've got to get a bit of a grip of some of this. And so there would be some...
Was she coming to you with a lot of issues then and things that she was struggling to deal with? Were you like her coping mechanism a little bit?
I think we were the offload, so we were the dumping ground a bit. Okay. And so we weren't, I suppose I didn't necessarily always, I very rarely dealt with it very well. I think there were lots of arguments and there was a lot of screaming fits at night and around the dinner table when she was living at home. And I think we ultimately look as though we've dealt with it okay, but there was some real fights. She had a toxic friendship with a buddy that was really bad for her. Looking back, was a real reason why she was so argumentative about so many things. But she got out of that eventually, and it wasn't a relationship; it was a friendship. But yeah, and so but when she then moved out, we'd get the calls, and it would be another panic attack, or another drama, or another friendship, or another. It would be absolutely draining. But now she's ringing. She just wants to talk to somebody. She wants to talk to us. And we're seeing for the first time that whole, I don't need to worry, do I? So you're picking up the phone and yes, it might be, you've called at that time again. We've just got home, or we've just driven 5 hours from Anglesey. But yes, we'll talk to you. But can we call you back? But it's lovely conversation, or it's asking us about stuff, or it's, so yeah.
Do you know what I suspect? I think when she was ringing you before, she wanted to do the same thing. She wanted to talk to you, but her only way of interacting, the only thing she probably knew how to do, was just have a bit of a moan.
Hit hard. Oh, she hit hard as well. She would hit hard. But you're absolutely right. She'd sometimes just say, stop solving stuff. I just want you to listen.
Yeah, exactly.
Because as a parent, maybe me as a dad, and maybe me as a person, can't say which of the three you want to fix. And I've always been a problem. I want to solve your problem. If you tell me something, I want to give you a solution. No, some people just want you to freaking listen.
Yeah.
And nice that she comes to you though. I mean, she could go to anyone. She could go to like toxic friends.
Yeah.
And, good that you're aware and more involved. I'm sure my mum would love me to ring her a little bit more and go to her with more of my problems. But I think we all have that sounding board, don't we? Someone to kind of go to, and you obviously that for her.
I relate to that a lot from a husband perspective. Me being a husband, I just want to solve problems. So if ever Amy, my wife, comes to me with problems, I'm like, have you tried this? And she ended up having to say to me, like, will you just shut up and listen?
Yeah.
I don't want you to solve it. I just want you to listen.
Yeah, Rach done that with me.
Yeah, which is great. And one key word that I've sort of noted down here, James, was change, in terms of coping with change. And I suppose his internal instinct is to try and keep things the same, because change is
scary.
Can be scary, can be dangerous, whereas keeping things the same feels quite safe. But the ever-evolving nature, I suppose, of things means that change is inevitable.
Yeah, but work I keep the same. So that's the most settled place that I know, because we haven't changed anything for so long, and we've done so well on the back of that as well. So yeah, I totally agree. There's the odd, and I think there will be some tweaks, and we do some tweaks, but yeah, change is scary. And if you've got so much change going on, and that can be a growing family, that can be relationships, that can be everything, to have something that's a constant, whatever it is, and it probably good angle to say again is sport can be that constant, that you don't have to change too much, that you can go and do that same workout 2-3 times a week, or that same sport that you do every week. But I think for me, work and sport are those things that I definitely don't want to change too much.
I suppose another couple of words to throw at you would be, ownership and control, maybe as well. Like, I suppose that control of you with your schedule, maybe for work, but then the ownership for Archie and Rosie to maybe say, I've got this. This is my choice. I'm going to join a gym when I want to. I'm going to go and do the food shop because it's my choice. But you've still sown the seeds a little bit. And I love that. I love the fact that as a parent, that's what it is, isn't it? You sow the seeds, you tell them this would be really, really beneficial, but you've got to make the choice. You have to make that choice. And that seems like a big ethos of yours, James.
Yeah, I think that, with my running as well, because I know when I'm doing it all week, to have anything that interrupts it, so a weekend Anglesey got me a little bit antsy because I didn't manage to do a Sunday run. But maybe my body will rest and have the recovery. But now, because of the kids being at the age they are, which your kids won't necessarily allow such a rigidity of training, I can actually know that I'm going to be going out each day. When I go out, I don't have to tell anybody I'm doing it, and I don't have to necessarily ask.
I look forward to that. I genuinely can't wait for that. It's every weekend, every day, and ever evolving. Jigsaw with our little one. There's so much going on. But it's just the age, isn't it? They get to a point where they stop relying on you as much a little bit, and you can kind of send them off on the way. You get a bit more trust in them, as we've spoken about many times in this podcast. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm not going to just have like 10 minutes on the rowing machine because I know the missus is cooking tea and she's going to look after her.
Yeah, no, a bit that stung me because Ted, my boy, he's really good on his bike, and he always has been, to be honest. Did his balance bike, didn't really use stabilisers, just jumped on and went. I remember I'm holding him, and then he says, "Daddy, you can let go." I'm like, "Are you sure?" And I let him go, and he's pedalling along, and he says, "I don't need you anymore." And it stung. It really stung. So I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Oh, you don't need me anymore for this, but you'll need me for something else." And I'm like, "That's the point. I want him to go and be."
It'll be the next thing.
Yeah.
Because when they're 17 and they're going, "You aren't coming to the next Red Bull thing."
No. That's my holiday.
I get that. That's like almost the worst thing a kid can say to you, isn't it? I don't need you anymore. In his context, I don't need to hold my bike. But you probably just got a real zap into the future. Like, you probably have that kind of like moment where you're every image of the future coming through, where he moves out and he goes to university, and all of a sudden, like, you have less contact with them.
It was like overwhelming pride. I'm sure you've experienced this.
Yeah, but also,
do
you want time to? I bet with kids your age, you both want time to freeze. You don't want it to progress. You want this to stay as it is right now. Right, and then they're 20 and 17, and you're going, okay, can we go back to how it was a little bit? Or
Everyone says to me that the problems don't stop; they just change. Like, it doesn't get easier. The problems just get different.
Well, I was lucky to go to 2 skiing trips this winter. One with him, meant to be a boys' trip, because I'm 50 this year, and so it's going to be two of us going away. Very different from then the one where we went with couples, but Rosie came along on the adult ski trip for the first time. So he destroyed me, absolutely destroyed me. And I'll tell you this, if anyone knows me about sport, they'll know people don't destroy me. I don't very rarely get beaten by things or whatever it is. He absolutely killed me. He would go 60, 70 miles an hour, get to the bottom, and I'd be coming down as quickly as I possibly could, and he'd go, and he'd just devastated, saying, "Dad, you're going to have to keep up."
It's tapping his watch.
Yeah, you're going to have to keep
Come on,
up.
Dad.
For someone who's competitive, that's the worst thing, isn't it? Not thinking that you're letting someone down in a sport.
And then he'd end up having to go off for an hour, because I was just like, I can't go any quicker. And I am now 49, thinking, if I have a bad tumble, that's game over for everything. But I still was on the limit. Yeah. And then I had to let him go off. And then there was no nice posh lunches with a glass of wine, and it was a scoffing it down as quickly as we could, because he had 2 more hours to do before he even broke sweat. And then we went away with a couple we know, and Rosie came along. Yeah, way more sedate. Way more sedate. Still gunned it, but way more sedate.
That changes the stakes of our pairs paddle game that I'm going to invite you to for Pete Swats. That completely changes this dynamic now.
Yeah. I've played it once, but no, I do feel I'll be all right.
I'm not sure I want James on my team, because I am also ultra competitive. And I feel like that combination, it might just overspill into something quite aggressive.
Well, what I've remembered is paddle is social, isn't it? So actually, I'm looking for.
I've never played. No. So I'm
played,
looking forward to a game of that.
I played Sunday for the first time.
Sunday.
Yeah, really cool. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was social until it wasn't.
Singles or doubles?
Doubles.
Yeah, you had the girlfriends involved, didn't you?
Yeah, so I took my wife, and my friend took his girlfriend.
Nice.
And,
okay.
When we had to swap, and we're like, do we wife swap here, or do we go lads versus lasses? Like, let's do lads versus lasses just to be safe. Yeah.
Really, lads versus lasses.
Yeah, mate, they're good.
Were they?
They're really good, yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to it, and it is one thing that I keep telling myself I'm going to enjoy the social side. Whether that happens when you cross the white line, because crossing the white line, it's the same with squash, it's the same with anything, isn't it? You cross that line, it's just going to be a friendly, isn't it? But
until you've got to make the call. You're 2 points down. All rides on that.
There is points at stake, yeah.
That's it. I'm super conscious about your notes that we have written down, James. Is there anything else you want to cover on during our chat today?
Well, no, I think probably the only thing I didn't probably say was about the age. I haven't talked about necessarily my age and the worries that you've got about what could happen with time. You know, my dad's had dementia for a very long time now, and I think sport does stop me. Hopefully it helps with those things about
delays of process.
Maybe delays. And then the only other thing was about me thinking. For me, there is a little bit of me hopefully inspiring at least one person to do something that they hadn't done before, or do it a bit harder. But no, we don't need to cover stuff like that, really.
I think your whole conversation around the way you parent and your ethos around training really highlights that anyway. It genuinely does. I think, honestly, getting towards 50, if I could still be doing what you're doing, and still have like a really level head about everything as well. Like I really like your ethos around training and parenting. I think it's great, and obviously we have the Fit Dads podcast, and you are like almost the perfect guy for this pod, really.
Well, I don't want aged. I look at some photos and think, oh God, you look old, or something, and then I'm running around, or I'm doing something, or I'm just chucking something, or I'm sprinting after, and I think, nah, I still feel 25, 30. Right, okay, feel it rather than look it, because I don't want to be what I see when people are getting older and they're starting to slow down. I don't. My head tells me
that is the most important thing, right? Forget how you look and what you see. And the most important thing is you feel great.
Yeah.
You feel like to feel 25 in anything that you do. Some people would love to feel 25 just moving around the house.
Yeah,
let alone going and doing fell running and all these other bits, CrossFit, for example. Like you're a shining beacon for parents. I mean, I need to put my mum onto this podcast because I think she could do with it more running and CrossFit in her life. It definitely comes across.
Yeah, thank you. Just keep the Jason Statham lookalike comparisons alive.
Oh yes, I'll take that.
Jason Statham lookalikes talks about his sub 18.
Oh, love that, right? Yeah, please, I'm going to take that.
If this weren't audio medium, there'd be no proof of that.
Is there an ability to text that to everyone on WhatsApp right now and just
clip it up? Yeah,
just that one bit.
Yeah, that's
the highlight of the pod.
I'll take that.
We're trying to get a bit more a staple question involved in our podcast, James, as well.
Okay.
And I'm springing this on you because I'm keen for it to be quite instinctive.
Oh, right.
What 3 words would you use to describe your parenting experience so far?
Okay, winging it.
That as one word.
Well, that as well.
Have that as one word. There we go.
Can we have that one?
Yeah, I'll have that as one word. Yeah, definitely.
Winging it, I like it.
Probably stressful. I think, and I mean that from a perspective of it isn't. If you don't feel in your comfort zone, I think you can find it tough to get through it. But also incredible. Because of what they have both been through and what they've experienced and how much they've given to us as parents as well, in all measures, in equal levels of joy, happiness, tears and stress and whatever. You don't stop worrying about them. And they are literally, you can go through a panic where one of your children's telling you they've literally there's something definitely poorly with them or whatever, and you say, look, you're the most precious thing in the if I thought there was something wrong, we'd be blue lighting you, or we'd be taking you, you find that is your most precious thing, and you're still not necessarily going to ever get them to understand until they're a parent themselves how important they are to you. So yeah.
Lovely.
And I think we've spoken to a few parents about that same feeling where you don't really understand what your own mum and dad did for you and how they parented you until you have your own kids and you're put in similar situations and you realise how your mum dealt with that, or how the advice you got from your dad on that. and then how that might differ to what you're currently feeling in the moment. And you're like, no, I'm not going to go with instincts on this. I'm going to go with what my mum and dad did because that really works for me.
Yeah. I think also some people do things the way that their parents didn't. They don't want to have done what their parents.
Yeah,
so I think when we're talking about work and the experiences you've had in business of directors or bosses or line managers that you would never want to be like, you can create the culture or the team based around what's wrong with what they did and make it into making sure that doesn't happen ever again. And I do think that could be the case with parenting as well, because some people would have had some really unpleasant experiences growing up, and they will make sure they're never like that with their children.
There's a small percentage of kids who have parents who are alcoholics and drug addicts. There's a small percentage of them who never touch alcohol and drugs in their life because they saw firsthand what those things did, and they don't ever want to be that person. And you sometimes find it in let's say I've got a client, I won't remain nameless, but he grew up with a parent who was a drug addict, and he had a sibling, and he kind of became the older kind of parent to that sibling, almost a second parent. And I think that's, to a certain degree, is kind of like what parenting can be like for you as well. Like if you're thrust into, I mean, how old were you when you had your first child?
What would age be? 20, so I'd be 30-ish.
30. I even still think at 30, we're still kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you still
haven't worked shit out, have we?
You've literally just finished your 20s, and now you're having a kid.
You might still be in first job.
Yeah.
After uni, you could be, or you might have changed jobs a couple of times, but you've got nothing, have you? You've got no real experience.
No one at 30 really is that equipped to have a kid.
No,
you've just finished your partying days.
My God.
You've literally just finished the biggest partying decade of your life, and now you're having a kid. It's that quick as it changes, right? And I think, that sometimes unfortunately happens for kids as well, when they, have a sibling, they have to adopt this parenting role at a really young age. But they've normally got quite a good head on the shoulders, those guys.
I think overcorrection is definitely a thing, where you might experience one thing personally and then you massively overcorrect.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm doing
in your approach.
I think I have. I'm not going to necessarily go into the deep side of what I think about my lovely parents and how they were maybe different to what I am, but certainly I think I've overcorrected a bit of certain things in that respect. So, yeah.
The awareness is key. We always say that, there's an old analogy about meditation. If people try and meditate and they can't meditate, they're now aware that it doesn't work for them, which was the point in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's that's exactly the same. But you have to reflect and see these things.
Yeah.
So,
what else is in your calendar this year? Training-wise, have you got any races coming up? Have anything else? You mentioned the CrossFit competition.
Yeah, so I wanted to focus a little bit on my 10K time. So that's down to 35, 45. And I wanted to get that down quite a way. But what time's an issue? So things are cropping up with both of us are 50 this year. So we've got various little trips or little things that are coming up, like weekends or nights out that, we're not drinking hardly anything at the moment. So it'll only be the odd glass of wine here and there until this kicks in. Unfortunately, I think we're not going to necessarily get away with it because we're just enjoying our running. Yeah. So I think what I was going to do is do a couple of 10Ks, but they might be scuppered by plans for my birthday. And then I'm contemplating either something like the Chester Marathon or going and doing something like Eindhoven, going flat into Europe and going, I just want to go and have a weekend to myself and race. And then my friend that is joining me down at Kelham every Wednesday and another 2 people, we've just entered one of the competitions at Forge.
Cool.
A scaled quad.
Oh, wow.
So we've just entered a CrossFit competition in September.
The new one that's got a big, huge warehouse.
I think so, up in Halfway. Yeah.
Rotherham Halfway area.
Yes. Yeah. So we just thought we'd go along, have a lot of fun, and 4 of us that kind of do the same class-ish together. Yeah. We have certainly not got the technical skills to be able to do the intermediate level, but just to go and say, let's have a day of beasting ourselves, but having a laugh with it. So there's that. It will be, I'm missing the trail running a bit, but I'm just enjoying hitting the pavements and trying to get my times down. So
yeah, sometimes I've felt that as well. Sometimes I'm drawn to the roads, getting my times down, my speed, and then sometimes you just want a nice trundle around some awesome hills with some amazing views, and having a nice balance in both. I think it's really good.
Definitely. Remind me to ask James about some marathon advice, because by the end of the summer I will have booked a marathon. I'm going to put it out
this
there.
year or next year?
Depends what the schedule's looking like. I'm thinking early next year, because I've always wanted to do one.
Spring marathon.
Yeah, I'd say so. So I would love to do one.
12, 16 weeks. That's the time frame just to give yourself, so that you're not stressed. We'll talk about that then.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a bit. But no, James, you've been incredibly generous with your time. You've been incredibly insightful. If our amazing viewers want to check out you and your amazing work that you do at Steel City Marketing, how can they find you?
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn. That's straightforward, just my name, James Biggin, and then we are Steel City, branded merchandise. We're down in the middle of city centre. Website steel-city.co.uk. Didn't think you'd be asking me all of that, so that's very kind of you. And yeah, we're good at what we do. Very good at what we do.
Brilliant. End it there.
Sign off there. Let's do it.
Thank you for joining us, James. We'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
mate.
Cheers.
Very grateful.
Yeah, awesome.